Hi guys, and welcome back to episode 22 of Let's Talk About It 803. Guys, I am here with Yvonne Frierson Jones. Welcome back to the show. And I'm here with the beautiful Sandra E. Carson. Guys, let's welcome them to the show. We want to start it off talking about autism. That has been a big subject lately. I have a 6-year-old son that was diagnosed at the age of 2 with autism. He's high functioning. A lot of people may not know what that means. And I'm going to turn it over to Sandra.
Okay. Hi, guys. I have 2 sons with autism. The oldest is 10. He was diagnosed at about 13 months. And the youngest is 9. The oldest is moderate because if you look at autism on a scale, there are tiers to it. High functioning is Einstein and all the great things we think of. Moderate is when it starts to get a little more critical, and then severe. And then my youngest is high functioning. So there's variations to autism and the way it is perceived to the public as you witness a person who has autism.
And I'm Yvonne. I have a daughter who is high functioning, and we didn't find out until last year. So she wasn't diagnosed until she was 9.
And how old is she now?
She's 10 now.
10. Wow.
My youngest wasn't diagnosed until he was 7.
Wow. So how did you take that when you found out the diagnosis? How did you take it? How did it affect you?
The first one, my oldest, when I found out he had autism, it was heartbreaking because I waited a long time to have children, of course, and so that means you put all your expectations into it.
Absolutely.
And it made me want to become an educator at least to myself,
right,
to understand what is autism and how does it affect a person. I found correlations with my upbringing, my childhood, through learning and educating myself about him. When I found out about his brother, though, that blew me back. That actually took me back because I felt like I was neglectful, or I went through all kinds of emotional.
I can imagine.
Like I couldn't really cope with the idea. I felt like, how could I miss that?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that emotional heart strain.
Yeah,
I was like, how could I miss that? How could I not know?
Yeah.
And so it took a while to. And then when I sat down, you guys, and really thought about it, I was thinking, I kicked myself in the butt even more because I'm like, oh my God, he's been stemming all this time on me physically, because autism doesn't always look the same.
Right.
It looks so different, yet it's so seamless and uniform at the same time, which is kind of crazy.
Yes.
And where children line up things and objects and toys, and you're like, okay, that's an autistic child.
Right.
They all love French fries.
Right.
Like,
there you go.
there's an autistic
That's
child.
my favorite.
Yeah, like, but
Yeah.
with this one, it was like, okay, he likes to write and he likes to hug and he needs lots of comforting.
Right.
And I'm thinking, oh, that's not autism. He's just my baby. And they're like, no, he's stemming on you. And I'm like, oh.
Can you explain what stimming is?
So stimming is a thing that the children do, or the adult person with autism, they do to deal with things and environments that make them feel uncomfortable. Where you might be in the car driving down the road, you might miss a turn.
Right.
And the autistic child or person would actually know exactly where you're navigating. So the moment they start noticing the difference, they start to stim.
Yeah.
They start to either rock, clap,
Okay.
take the blanket, cover their head, because now they're feeling some emotional kind of disconnect. And so they need to do that to calm down. But every child's stem, even autistic or not, is very different.
Yes.
So some children need touch.
Yes.
That's my youngest. He needs touch. He needs to be constantly reminded to say, okay, well, everything's fine, even if it does look different.
Right.
And the oldest is not that. He needs to clap. He needs to yell.
Okay.
He needs everyone to know, I'm uncomfortable.
Right.
Something's wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So it's very different. It looks different on all. I did want to bring up this. The first book I read that moved me to tears was Let Me Hear Your Voice. And the author was a mother who, her daughter diagnosed, I believe daughter or son, had autism, but she had never heard them speak. For 10, 11 years, they had never said a word. you know, and it was all about her journey and educating herself, trying to figure out how, like, what to do, ABA therapy, occupational therapy. I mean, I was taking 40 hours a week in care.
Yeah.
From in-home, out-of-home.
Out-of-home, yeah.
Like, it took me on a whole nother journey. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys.
What about your daughter?
A lot of stuff you're saying is like ringing true to what she, and being that I'm not as researched in the topic, I just started my research last year. It's like, that makes sense, because y'all are saying that y'all kids do the same thing. And I'm like, okay. And when we first found out, I wouldn't say I was a little bit scared, only because my brother, when he went through the schooling system, he was labeled, and that label was something that he couldn't really get rid of. And so when I brought it to my grandma, as the person that I confided in, she like freaked out. She was like, don't label my baby, you know, because she's like an old thinker, you know, it's like they have that one set where they think that Down syndrome is the only autism, and she's like, no, my baby's too smart to be, you know, labeled. And I'm like, and I had to actually explain it to her and give her certain things that my daughter was doing, and then she's like, oh, well, I'm glad you explained that, because had you not explained that, I would have been thinking something completely different.
So see, I had a different experience in general. It was the don't label. You know, of course, that's all our parents. Don't label that baby.
Don't
Ain't nothing wrong with that baby. That baby just needs, you just need to cut that baby butt, put him on the bed, give him some NyQuil, bring him up, and he'll be fine. And I'm sitting there looking like, well, this is going on, that is going on. Oh, you rushing it. Oh, you this, that. He's a boy. I went through all of that. And one of the most tryingest times, as for me as a mother, like I'm telling you, my background was business, accounting, finance. Like that's my work. But then I fell in love with this little human. You know what I'm saying? And I need to figure that out. You know what I'm saying? So once I started figuring that out, I'm like, no, you know, there is nothing wrong with him, but there's something different with him. And I cannot not acknowledge that. Because when it came down to it, no one wanted me to do the labeling or go through the, you know, but I said, this world's changing so profoundly.
Yes, it is.
If we don't do something to protect our children now, our young little black boys and girls, then what are they going to do when I'm not there? And what happens if my child is out in the street having a sensory moment, or no one's there to protect them? How do I protect them even in my absence? And that's why I did what I did. Because once they hit the certain age of like 18, 21, did you know they get a card with that? With their diagnosis. Yes, they get a card with that.
I never knew that.
Yeah. So if any event of an emergency, they could at least pull out that card like a wristband. And the authorities know that this child or this person is autistic, and they learn how to work with them in an emergency, because that is the number one killer of autistic people, is the emergency happening. And no one understands, because autism, one of the things that made me advocate so hard is not Down syndrome. In Down syndrome, it's in the eyes, it's in the face. So everybody look at you and say, oh, well, I know what's going on. But autism doesn't read that way. We look at the person and assume they are normal. It's not until they speak or do something we think is a little off. And then you have the old people that walk around and say, oh, that child touched. And I'm like, no, he's not touched.
I don't like that.
He him. He in his bubble, in his world. He's where he's comfortable at, and he doesn't have to conform to your world. You know what I mean? So it's important that we did do what we did. You know what I mean? So that now they get to live in a world where people understand what that is. People are educating themselves more now.
My daughter got lucky, and she has a teacher currently that has an autistic son.
Oh, great.
And she has a, like you say, a more moderate version. And so when my daughter shows out at school, she can do what she does at home for her son, and it works perfectly. So I feel so, at peace and safe, because she has a teacher that fully understands it and embraces it. So whenever she says, well, your daughter's having a rough day, I went and gave her a hug. My daughter's things is hugs. Like, she has to be touched. She wants to be held like a baby, and so the teacher knows exactly what to do in order to calm her down, to keep it from escalating to a different level. Her teacher last year, she didn't have the autistic kid, but she was really good with hugs. And as long as my daughter was able to get those hugs, she was fine. But when she has a teacher that does not understand her, like she's immediately trying to send her to the office and things like that. And I'm like,
it's frustrating.
Honey, now
It's
y'all woke
frustrating.
up the mama bear in me.
Okay, let's get it, Mama Bear.
Oh, and I hope and pray that this reaches someone who is going through it like I have. My oldest has, let me say this. I work with USC students, right? Once a year, it's a program. In order to get your PhD, you have to be with a family who has autistic children and spend a day or at least a week shadowing us in our normal behavior in order to get your PhD, and then you have to write about it, and then they send that in, and that gets them their PhD. They have to have so many hours. And this is at USC. And one of the reasons why I even joined that program is because of this.
Right.
Because there's not enough educators. Hear me, come with me, y'all. There are not enough educators that know what it's like to actually deal with an autistic person. It is something to being in the field. The classroom and having an autistic person, and this is your first experience, is not it.
Okay.
This can't be it.
Speak.
I've had teachers, for instance, my oldest, he was sent home the first day of school this year. The first day. At 9:30.
oh man,
He arrived at school at 8:20. Okay? So, when they're not prepared, and even if, and I'm one of those moms that I over give information. I'm like, listen,
Me too.
This is my kid. This is what he does.
That's right.
And,
And
I'm thinking, you're not taking notes. That's how I was looking at him like, where's your notes due? Like, you're not taking notes. So the first day, I went on ahead and called the superintendent of the district. I was like, we just not gonna do that. He's 10 years old. I know this game. I've been there. My son has been sent home due to COVID 7 times last year. 7 times, 10-day scratches. He can't even see the doctor without having a hyperventilated panic moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he see that white coat, our doctor has had him his whole life. And when she comes in the room, she doesn't wear her coat. As a means, so he don't think shots or anything.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So 10-day scratches. You know, this is the biggest issue in our community, is that there are not enough educators or people working in the field who actually know what it looks like. Every child deals with their hard days so different. Like a hug for your little girl. My little boy, a hug would change the whole day. My Keanu, 10 minutes of just free time to play with his keys or talk to his kitty, you know, will still calm him down. But if you don't know that and you're not listening to the parent, guess what? Your day is about to get hard. You're about to call me. You're about to call me and call me and call me and call me. Girl, I have hyperventilation when I see the school on the ID. Hold on, I gotta answer the phone. Give me a second. Everybody, shut up. It's the school, you know. Like, I need to sound busy when I answer. Yeah, I'm really busy. I'm in front of some paperwork. Like, you know, because I never know.
You never know.
And it's hard. It's hard when you're the only whisperer for him or
There
her.
you go.
And you're like, please, can someone else get it? And I call it speaking his language. You know, speak his language. If he say meow, you say meow.
That's it.
That's it. And if you're there, he like, you know what? You kind of remind me of my mama. I like you. And I'm like, thank God. Go. Yeah, like go with her. Go with him. But that is important to really not just be in the field, speech therapist, ABA therapist, but to work. I think people like us deserve to work in the field because of that. You know what I mean? They're not hiring a lot of us. They're hiring a lot of just fresh out the gate, you know, new college students who's thinking to themselves, well, I had one lady tell me, guys, have you ever thought about homeschooling? That is the biggest insult. And I don't know for all you other autistic parents out here. And I'm explaining why. When your child has autism, Asperger's, in the spectrum, they have a social behavior issue. So if we take them in the home full time, and I know how to navigate the home, what happens when they have to go into the world.
Yep.
Right.
They have had no social development,
Nothing.
barely any. Homeschooling an autistic person is to their detriment. It's not helping them. If we don't push them into these new situations, they can't grow. They can't learn to adapt in the things that make them discomfortable. So please don't anyone say anything about homeschooling.
No.
Don't do that.
So as far as my job, I'm a tutor.
Oh, good.
And my little hack, the other tutor, she didn't want certain children because they were too much for her. And so my way of teaching is how I would teach my daughter. Reverse psychology. We're having a great time. You think you're having fun, and it worked perfectly. And then the parents started to complain, saying that I was too nice and I was too fun. And I had to sit down and explain to them that they wanted me to be firmer. And I said that they will shut down if you're too firm. So there are certain things that you can say, and there are certain ways. And I have mastered my way of doing it because of my daughter. So what I use for my daughter, I use for them, and it works perfectly. And so when they're telling me to be firmer, I try, just so y'all can see what happens when I try to be firmer. And I couldn't get any work done. I couldn't get anything done because I'm like, okay, we're going to try it your way. But then this is the result when we try it your way.
Right.
But please listen to me because I have my experience in at least working with and teaching autistic children. So what works for my daughter, it works for the children. Now, everybody has something different. One of my children, they love it when I go, oh no, you're about to get it right, and they're just like, yay, and that gets them excited to learn and things like that. And we need more teachers out there that can embody that and actually truly mean it instead of just working for a paycheck.
I will tell you my experience, because Kenny was diagnosed at 13 months. That's barely a year old.
Right.
Aggressive ABA therapy, aggressive occupational therapy went in my house. And his brother came along. And I started noticing they don't want him involved in the sessions with his brother. And Jeremiah was just like a little baby. But once he started kind of crawling and moving, I began to teach him sign language like I was teaching Keanu.
Okay.
I began to teach him how to read. I began to teach him his little math and how to, write his name. There's another reason why he went undiagnosed. Because all the techniques I taught and learned for Keanu, I did on Jeremiah.
Yes.
So Jeremiah was like skating on by, but the behavior issues would still come back. And I would be like, well, I think he's just stubborn because he's a late, he homeschooled for 5 years.
Right.
Maybe that's had something to do with it. But I'll tell you this. I have learned one thing, and I've mastered that. You get more bees with honey than you do anything else. You have got to get on these kids' level, and autistic kids need to know that what we're doing is not work. It's fun. If they believe it's fun, A, B, they be like, oh yeah, this is fun. Like, let's do it again, And they love your extra excitement. As far as my children, they're big on me playing accents. Like, the mornings are the roughest, so I have to get up with, like, this accent. Normally, I think it's Australian or something, and I'll be like, let's put a shrimp on the barbie, eh? And the kids, they be so serious. My son come up with his teddy bear, let's put a shrimp on the barbie. I'm like, yes, let's put a shrimp on the barbie. But it works.
If it works.
And he gets on that bus, we don't have no screaming, we don't have no zip. Good point. I got a question. Are your children dealing with meltdowns? How often are your meltdowns?
Well, it depends. If he can't get his way here, or if he don't have what he needs here, it's like out of control.
Out of control.
I can't even take him to the grocery store.
This is what I was thinking about, because I had this conversation with someone once, and it was like, that's just a tantrum. And I was like, nay. Knock on your head. Because a tantrum and a meltdown are two different things. A tantrum means your child is freaking out because it wants to continue playing, and you're stopping that child, right? And then, say for instance, you cave in, you give the child what it wants. The tantrum goes away immediately. A meltdown is completely different. You can try to fix it, and it does not stop. That is a child with autism who's having a meltdown. You cannot just, maneuver them back on the right path. Like, you've done it. And it's like, now that you've done it, you all must suffer. Everyone must know. But when we're out in public, because the meltdowns was so severe for me in my house that grocery store trips became limited.
Right. Yes.
Going to church was non-existent.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because you got a lot of people who don't understand what they're watching. Older people and parents, other parents who believe, oh, well, you just need to cut that child's butt.
Right. Right.
You know, it is a lot of personal beliefs being pushed on parents like us.
Yes, it is.
Where, oh, you just too nice. Oh, you give that child whatever he wants.
They don't understand.
They don't understand. My kid would throw things at me while I'm driving.
Yeah, okay.
And I
kicked me in the head one time driving.
And I have family who would sit there and say to me, oh, well, why can't you just go to the store? I mean, if I have to take my kids to the store, you take your kids to the store.
They don't get it.
And I'm like, God, what would it give to put you in my life?
Right.
For not just 48 hours or 78 hours. I'm going to give you a month. And I want you to see how it is, you know, in the environment. It is not easy. It is very difficult to navigate.
I had to explain to my husband, because I'm autistic as well. So when my daughter would do certain things, he grew up in a household to where you don't do that. You don't do that to an adult. You don't say that to an adult. You don't do such and such thing, because that's taken as disrespect.
Right.
And I had to break it down, and I said, well, she's not looking at it like that. That's not her reasoning for doing that. Right. And, you know, once I sat down and explained to him, he has a lot more patience when it comes to her doing certain things and saying certain things, and I can understand her, so I can speak through her. So when she wants her quiet time and she needs to go in her room and she just abruptly leaves and go in the room, he'll say, well, you know, when I was growing up, if I would have did that, then such and such. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, that's in your time, but see, you know, growing up, I wish my mom was more understanding instead of just
right.
Like me being a late diagnosee too. I'm high functioning. And honestly, I should have been on. Like, honestly, I am a weird mother, you know what? But, you know, I'm not going to go there.
Well, we all
that's why we get along.
Yeah, exactly. Like, in the end, I'll say this much. Because of the same thing. Like, my son carries Kitty. If anybody knows personally, they know about Kitty and they know about his Volkswagen keys and his car. That is serious. And I had a stuffed animal called Poo Poo. He had a little patch on his butt. I still remember what he looked like. I don't want to go into too much details because I would get emotional. But Poo Poo and me, we rolled through everything. Right. Like, Poo Poo couldn't even get a bath. Like, you know, it was just like if I take my son's Kitty, you better believe he's sleeping. If I wash him, my son has a chair in front of the dryer, and he is like this. Waiting for his kitty. Like, we're not leaving the house until Kitty gets out the, you know. Right. So I get it. Like, I wish, you know, back then as an adult now, I wish my mom, you know, would have, having that diagnosis is so freeing.
Yes, it is.
You know what I'm saying? People don't understand as an adult version. It is free. It is validation. It is, I'm not weird. I'm not so different as I can be understood. There is sense to my madness.
Right.
And for my kids, I'm like, they're going to get to that place like I did. And they're going to be like, wow, thank God mom did that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that she was patient with me. And she understood I wanted my teddy bear. And piece of advice, if y'all haven't seen this, and you guys too, there's a show called Autism in Love. Love on the Spectrum, something like that.
Yeah, Love on the Spectrum.
Loved it. Loved it. You gotta see it. Because there's a girl who carries her teddy bears and her fiance carries his teddy bears, and they are completely happy. Like, it exists where, like, it's something to knowing how to soothe yourself. Now we're older, we're diagnosed late, but nonetheless, we're older, we've forgotten all the things that calm us down when our anxieties go through the roof. So now we're out here trying to figure it out. Like, how do I calm down? How do I get the anxiety down or the depression from creeping back in? Whereas our children have got it all worked out. Now all you have to do is follow the map. Like, okay, so we need the keys right now. Guess what? Anxiety comes down. You know what I mean? Oh, we need earphones. Okay, anxiety comes down. But adult versions is when you don't know. And you're walking around in society like, ticked off with everyone, or you just can't figure out what's your problem,
or you're overstimulated.
Overstimulated. You don't even know. You don't even know. You're just thinking, oh well, this must be how everyone feels. No.
You know. Have y'all ever asked yourselves a question as far as like when you found out the diagnosis and then you're like, what did I do wrong?
Oh God, I did that. Oh yeah, mental crack. Yeah, like But I was like, I was super healthy. I ate fruits every day.
Right.
I walked, I ran, I worked out. I was like, it's impossible. But what I done through research, what I found out is autism is a lot like sickle cell. Mm. Both parents carry one trait of autism.
Wow.
And you get two parents together who has a trait of autism, you're more likely to have an autistic child. And that's new research. That's new, guys. So autism it's still a lot of studies on this, on how autism is developed, but it can be diagnosed in the womb. Okay. Do anybody remember the test they wanted to give the needle through the belly? Yeah. How many else declined?
I did.
Like, okay, we could have all found out that soon. Like, so autism is still being studied deeply, but it is genetic. It is genetic. Like, it could be from you and me, being that maybe the one parent has 2-part autism and the other parent has just one. They're still studying, but they are pretty sure that it comes out that way, which makes sense when you look at the partner, you look at yourself, and you say, okay, well, that might be a possibility, you know? And in my case, I have 2. So I was like, and that stopped me from having more children.
Right.
And I know it's some other woman that'll relate to that, that the fear of me having one high function, one moderate, what happens if I have another do it become severe? You know what I mean? Like, that's scary.
Right. It's very scary.
I have a question. So my daughter, her doctors never diagnosed it. It just right over their head. Her therapist, she had her first therapist, and they brought it to my attention, and I'm like, that's something to think about. Right. Her next therapist said the exact same thing. So when her next therapist said it, that's when I contacted the doctor, like, we need to have an evaluation done, because this, what they're saying, it's making a lot of sense. And it was sad, but it gave me a lot of comfort to know that she just wasn't acting out, just to act out. There's a method to her madness, a reason behind what she's doing.
I feel like with mine, it was vindication, especially with my oldest, because he's like textbook autistic. Like, I mean, he would not look any males in the eye from like 6 months. Like, he would, like, if you were a guy and you were holding him, he would be like this. And I mean, I don't care how you hold him, he would like not make eye contact. And he struggled with eye contact for a very long time. But with the other one, it was like, I think he might be, but no, it can't be, because he's so smart. He reads, he writes, he talks. I mean, he talks a little funny, but who doesn't at that age? You know, like, so I felt like, no, it couldn't be. But it was his teacher, his first grade teacher. Now, little fella got kicked out of pre-K. We were never like, he got kicked out. They thought his behaviors were just so bad. And I was like, he's just so cute. How could they do that? You know? But when he got to his other teacher, his favorite teacher, Miss Brandt, I love her dearly. Miss Brandt was like, he is cute. There's no lies there. And he is Einstein. There's no lies there. Right. She said, but there is something. And she was like, I can't diagnose. I think we should take it up. Right. Like, and she was like, I don't want to freak you out, Mom. But autism may not be far off. And I'm like, no way. She's like, hey.
Did they misdiagnose him with ADHD? Because that was our problem first. Was ADHD, and then we did more research and realized that it's not ADHD, that it actually is autism.
The blanket on the head is a dead giveaway to me. The needing to, if she'd have found herself in a box with that blanket at certain points, or in a basket, I would have said automatically autistic.
In the closet.
In the closet, exactly.
That's her space where.
Wow. Some dead giveaways, guys. Free.
And then when she's at school, she can't bring her blanket with her, so she uses her mask now. So if she does not have her mask when she goes to school, she will shut down. It's going to be a bad day. So every morning we have to make sure that she has some type of mask, or she's probably not even going to get out the car. I've never tested it. I don't want to test it.
Right.
But,
exactly.
You know.
We have left Kitty. Kitty was at school one night, and he got left. or assume, let's put it this way, he assumed he was still at the school, but he hadn't realized Kitty was in his book bag. The principal and everyone was walking the parking lot because that's how serious if he missed an item is. Now we're on to lemon lime dum dum. Let me tell you guys a story. My mom had him for the weekend, and she called me up and she's like, my middle name, she calls me Erica. She's like, Erica, I had Keanu in here, and he told me, oh no, where is Dum Dum? And I was like, what's Dum Dum? You know? And she was like, yo, so we outside, we in the yard, we everywhere, we looking for Dum Dum, we looking for Dum Dum. And she said, girl, you know we found it. And he gonna say lemon lime dum dum. Like, it's a lollipop and it's just green. But any green object that he grows an attachment to, if he misses it, he's like the guy with like 100 things in his hand trying to go somewhere. That's my son. He has teddy bear here, teddy bear there, keys, lemon limes, and then he's like, I'm ready to go. And I'm like, no, we have to carry a book bag when we go into public, and I have to put all those must-have items in it and make him keep it in there. That's the other part, because it's still a journry. He still wants to. He got to look at everybody, and and then he's like, okay, I'm good. But not having those things, you might as well. One day, and I think any autistic mom can contest to this, where we kind of forgot our child's mentally what triggers. You know what I mean? Right. I had one of these days where I was just so tired, and it's Valentine's, and I really want to make my teachers feel special. Right. This is because my teachers were hard. I'm not gonna lie, they were hard with mine. So I send my son with his Valentine's gift for his teacher, and then his ones for him. Right. But I forgot that he's not like the youngest one, where he can just hand off something. He grows an attachment with the thing. Somebody tried to take it from him. He freaks out on the bus. He throws his keys. Bus is right back. 5 minutes down the street, right back. And I'm looking like, it's my fault. I cried like a baby that day because I realized, had I not done that simple thing, it might have wouldn't have happened. So, right. Yeah, never test what you know. Right. Just go with what you know, and keep it that way. But all the outsiders would say, "Oh, you don't have to do all that with that kid. You just just tell her get in the car. Tell him get in the car. It's fine. They'll be all right." And you looking like
that's the part that makes me mad.
It really does. It really gets under my skin because sometimes family can be the worst. The closest people to you will tell you that no, you're crazy. You're doing too much.
Soft on him.
And it's like, please, I would like for you all to journey with me. In the autism.
That would make it so much
easier. And talk to more people. Read some books. Like, educate yourself. Educate yourself, because you'll see that our children are so much alike, like other children with autism. Same things, different looks, but all this. I mean, it's almost textbook. All autistic children tend to like French fries. All of them tend to like chicken nuggets from either McDonald's or Wendy's. Like, it's not a joke. I'm talking black, white, doesn't matter. Like, all of them do the same thing. And all the parents talk about the same things. If you do your homework, you'll find out that them lining up things on your countertops from different cups with different heights of fluids in it, water, just shiny colored things, taking it all the time. These are things that autistic people do in general. Like, so, and they parents are like us. They don't get a chance to get out, hang out with girlfriends. What's that? I don't know.
See, and then you have to, as far as like your plans, if you want to go out, like me and my husband, we, as far as people we trust to watch our kids, we could count on one hand. Right. Because you have to really know how to handle them, and then when they were younger it was a lot worse. And so we really had to have somebody that is extremely patient, that knows, they're not just showing out, they're not at, and really know how to cater to that. Because, let's speak on the incident, we had to share custody with my children's father last year, and they don't know how to talk, and so they yell and they cuss a lot. And so my daughter, when you talk to her, she shuts down. Like, when she would go over there, they would call me that first night, like, can you come get her? You don't have to come get your son. We just can't deal with this. And I'm just like, and I know what type of people they are, and she can't focus. She can't be herself if there's loud noise, let alone yelling and cussing and fighting.
Yeah.
And then she'd come back every single time in tears. When she see me, she would break down, and she's like, I'm just so glad to be home. And I felt so bad because she didn't have a quiet space there. Like how she got her own room at home, her own closet. She's got her blanket. She's got her squishmallows, which she loves. You know, so she's got all that at home. But when she's over there, she has no room. She's the only girl.
Right.
So, you know, on top of that, they don't know how to talk. And so she would just meltdown. So by the time we get her back, it's a lot of repairing that we have to do and get her to just calm down first so we can talk to see what's going on, because she's going to be very, very upset.
See, I have my mom. Oh, God bless her. My mom, their father's mom, she's really good with them. We were doing every weekend or every other weekend kind of things with her. And they get the best of anybody who's with them, because they're autistic and ADHD. So we have the twins over here. We have them both. So they are busybodies, and at the same time, they're like, huh? What?
I didn't know you could be autistic and ADHD.
Oh, yes.
If that's a thing, then that's what my daughter has.
Oh, yeah.
That's what's wrong with my son, too.
It's usually a paired kind of thing. Autism, ADHD goes together, or ADD, like one or the other. But, yeah, so we have the hyperactive disorder happening at the same time. So they're like bouncing and flipping sometimes at the same time. The youngest will ask you the same thing, and it don't even take 5 minutes. He's like a fishbowl. He go in the fishbowl this way. Forgot that there's another place. He go that way, and he come back and he keeps forgetting.
Right.
So he'll be like, I want to buy an Apple iPen. And you'd be like, Jeremiah, we don't have that kind of money today. He'll come right back in 2 minutes. So I really want an Apple iPen. And I mean, we can go there all day, all day. Same thing. And I mean, even if you get upset, it's not going to change the fact that he forgot. You know, that y'all have had this conversation 100 times. So, but having my mom, having their grandma on their dad's side has helped. It's mostly been like my family to rely on, which completely causes burnouts, completely causes people, like, honestly, invites become less and less. You know what I mean? Like, because people get to the place where they're just like, okay, I've had enough of y'all. Like, you know what I mean? And so, and I've tried different avenues, trying to get assistance, to get help or whatever. It's a journey. It's a journey. It's not a lot of time for mom in that journey. I've just grown up to get after school. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I got after school, you know, and they cannot discriminate, thank God.
No.
So I got after school now. So now I'm getting enough time to kind of do other things, like see my doctors, go see the dentist, you know what I mean? So that makes a difference. But like if I'm trying to work, like I do taxes and different stuff. So if I'm trying to work and I'm trying to work at home, it's a challenge. Like you might as well just not. Right. You know what I mean? Until they're asleep or something.
Do you have to turn down like things going out because?
Yeah. Majority of the time. Majority of the time, I have to turn things down. I'm used to it.
Yeah.
You know, so
it's like numbing.
Yeah, so it's like, okay,
it's become a part of your life.
I can't do that. So it is what it is.
If somebody invites us to a birthday party, I have to either go ahead and let them know that my daughter's probably not, because they'll go ahead and pay for like skating or you know, and I'm like, well, she's probably not going to want to participate because it's going to be too loud, or you know, she's want to go sit next to me. But certain things are like, oh, bring your kids, and I'm like, my son.
Maybe.
He loves people. He loves to talk. He, you know, he will fit in perfectly. He loves playing with kids. My daughter, she's not going to talk to anybody. She's not going to want to go play. If it's too many people in there, if it's too loud, she's just going to sit alone. And then I would have people come to me like, is your daughter okay? Tell her, girl, come on over here. Get out the car. And, you know, and when she gets overwhelmed, I let her, like, we go to a cookout. And it's going a little longer than what it takes. She'll say, Mom, can I go sit in the car? Yeah, you can go sit in the car. Someone in the family will go, oh, no, tell that girl to get out the car. And I'm like, no, it doesn't work like that. You know, just let her be. Please let her calm down and let her, and let her be.
I get that, 100. That happens to me often. Like I said, like, personal life is just, like, I'm doing a lot as far as when it comes down to my content creation, because I have some time for that because they're in school.
Right.
But like hang out with some friends or whatever.
Yeah.
Look for a sitter. Like, you know how expensive that would be for me?
Mm.
Like, I have to travel places alone, so I have to get a sitter. One that is like they love their older cousins, so they can get watched by them.
Okay.
But outside of that, I gotta kind of be on the mercy of maybe my sister who lives near, and then she has a family, so it's always taxing to try to do something. So I'm always trying to do it where it's a way that I can do it all on my own, and don't feel like no one's doing anything.
Right.
Because the moment that happens, then I'm in hot seat all over again. Because I'm looking like, well, dang, I'm sorry I asked. You know. It's a big guilt trip in this department.
Right.
You are constantly, if your child just getting diagnosed, then I can assure you, you might as well get ready to battle the world solo. Just get your shoes on, get your mommy gear ready, mark your nose, girl, because it's going down, and you're going out there by yourself, and you gonna have to fight to the end. And it just is what it is. Don't give up on you or your kid. And realize that everybody that walk away from y'all wasn't supposed to be there.
Wasn't supposed to be there.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
And it has been a challenge. It's nothing like, I have a sister who has a son who has medical issues with his diagnosis. So she deals with special needs just like me, but it's mostly medical. No behavior issues. So, you know, as far as him going out, it's quite easy. But with mine being mental and all that other stuff, it's a lot more for someone else to take in. You know, most of the time if I go somewhere, I'm nervous about how long I've been.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh my goodness, I thought I was the only one.
Oh no. I'm like, oh yeah. So you know, hey, I did that too long. Did I? You know what I mean? Like I can't seem to get the proper separation without feeling guilt.
Yes.
Can't do anything for myself without feeling guilty.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of guilt trip in this. Like, you gotta have tough skin. Like, these are real mommy bears up here.
Ooh, yes.
This ain't no joke.
This
like,
is no joke.
this is not for the faint-hearted.
I put myself in therapy, and in therapy I learned a lot, and it taught me how to be 10 times more patient, because all I had to go off of was how my mama did me.
Yes.
And so once I went to therapy and actually talked, and I was able to learn that, you know, raising your voice, you know, I was able to learn the triggers and try to stay away from them. So I'm not going to say I'm perfect, but 98% I have been able to change the way I do certain things to facilitate our relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
And it makes it way better when you know how to, like, say if she has a bad day at school and she knows when she gets home, I'm going to have to take her game because that's the punishment.
Right.
So used to, when she would come home, I would yell, and, you know, because I didn't know any better, that's all I knew.
Right.
And so when I started going to therapy, now when she, like, if she comes home and she's in trouble, it's like, okay, well, Liana, you know that I'm going to have to take that game. And she's like, yes, ma'am. And I know not to drill into certain topics, because if I just keep running on, well, I don't understand why you did such and such. Well, why did you do such and such? She's going to immediately shut down, and she's not going to communicate anymore.
Exactly.
She's going to verbally let you know. Like, last week she had an instance where she was just too worked up because she fought her brother. She got upset and fought her brother, so she was in trouble. So when I tried to go in there and talk to her, she said, well, Mom, can you just give me a minute so I can calm down? And I was very proud of her, because that's the first time she's ever vocalized. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I left the room, and then when she was able to communicate, she came and gave me a hug, and then we were able to, you know, I cuddle her like a little baby, and then she calms down and we can proceed with our day.
And see, we're very different. Once I started seeing my therapist, once I started seeing therapy myself, you know, and yes, I had a lot of, like, what I dealt with working through to deal with. And then I could see areas where, since my son has so much, the oldest being the moderate one, the severity with him is very different, because he doesn't read body language. He doesn't read those cues that the rest of us use as ways of communicating also. Those are, so when I'm looking angry, it's all the same for him. So he's looking like, okay, and he doesn't know until, say, I pop. Then he's like, oh, what made you do that? You know, and I'm looking like, I've been telling you, you know, and it's like, so I started to learn to deal with mine. You know what I mean? Because I realized my son, he yells, he does a lot as a noise level. And my autism, I'm sensitive to noises.
Right.
So it makes me like shaky. I get headaches, migraines. And I'm like, I worked hard to try to get over that because it's been years of it. Like he would stomp, do, and I feel vibrations really in my spirit.
Really?
You know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, oh my God, what is wrong with you? So we was, I found out me and him are so much the same that it was just traumatizing. You know what I mean? I needed help.
Yes.
Like, because I needed to, how do I deal with this child that's acting like me, but not verbal?
Yes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, could you just tell me?
Yeah,
And he's looking like, I don't know. So now we have a code at the house.
Yep.
When he starts going, ape, I turn to him and I go, Keanu, you doing too much. And then he'll bust out laughing just like you. He'll laugh. And I'll be like, I'm serious. And then he'll go off. He'll get quiet for a second. He'll come back by me with his teddy bear. And he'll be, Mommy, you're doing too much. As soon as he get my attention, he'll be like, you're doing too much. I'm like, no, you was.
Yeah.
So, we learning little things. But when I finally broke down and went to therapy, and I was like, I need something. I'm going through so much. And my kids are diagnosed and all this stuff. One thing that comforted me was my therapist was like, listen, you know how many autistic parents I see? How many parents come into my office who have children on the spectrum? I'm treating all of them. And I'm like, not all of them. He's like, no, you need to do your homework. And I mean, when I did my homework, all of them are dealing with anxiety, depression,
Really?
so much major issues because a lack of self-care, that's the problem. Not enough time for self.
Yeah.
There are programs out there, ladies and
Yes,
gentlemen.
please.
There are programs out there. There are ways to get the help at separating, with getting someone else to become a part-time caregiver.
Right.
You know what I mean? And getting some type of time to do the things you need to do. But apparently we all are overworked and underpaid.
There you go.
That's it.
How do you guys deal with discipline? Because it's a certain way I have to discipline her to where they don't feel like I don't love them anymore.
Oh, man.
That's a good question.
I want to hear yours, Cece.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God.
Because I just know I'm wrong probably, but I learn from my mistakes.
How are you wrong? Maybe I can go.
Yeah.
Because I don't want
I had to sit up for
I'll
that
just say I was the freak out mom at first, of course, because it's like, what do you need?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I was that, and then I became a little, I'm like, hold up. It was the key, I think, personally, is remembering the you in your child.
Yes.
Right.
That is the absolute key. When you were that age, what did you feel? What was you thinking? You know what I mean? And that is the trick. So now, discipline, I will still pop because I believe in it, but I'm not really a fan of cutting butt. I'm not a fan because correction shouldn't come with pain necessarily. I want to reason with the child because I feel like that is going to bring out a better version of the child. So with my youngest, I can reason. He gets a butt cut in maybe once every 6 months. Right. Maybe. Because I'll reason with him. And I'll be like, Jeremiah, why did you do that? You do realize this grade is bad, this grade is good. And we'll talk about it.
Yep.
Now his brother, that's all cute in his mind. That's cute. And I realize when you have multiples, you can't parent each child the same way.
Right.
They are so different that you have to come at them in the way that they understand. So my oldest, if I say, Keanu, come here. Keanu, come here. Keanu, come here. He will walk all around me. When I get, Keanu, did you hear me? And he'll laugh, he'll smile. He think it's funny, but it's the only voice he will respond to. And it makes me angry because I'm like, I don't want to be that version. I want to be my tender me. But my tender me is not for him. He says, he wants the stern hand, not the soft hand. The other one wants the soft hand, not the stern hand. If I get hard on the youngest, he shuts down. He's like, I don't know what she wants from me. I guess I'll just stop doing anything. And I'm looking like, okay, this is so weird. It's so different. So I learned that no two children are the same.
No.
Autism does not mean that child is not smart.
Okay.
Do not believe that.
Oh my goodness.
They will think you out of your own house. Okay.
Yes,
They're
will.
very smart. Very smart.
Very smart.
They just can manipulate you differently. It's not so vocal. It is not so in your face. You might get played in and realize it afterwards, kind of thing. You're like, you know what? You knew what you was doing.
Yeah.
And you feel taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Like, I really did buy those Skittles, didn't I?
Yeah.
But minus that, you can still parent them, and you can still pop if necessary when it comes down to danger.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If I cannot get my voice status, depending on which level, then I'm gonna have to pop because I don't want you to say open the door and walk into the road.
Right.
Like we had issues with that where he would open the door. If he would open a window and hop out. Like like we had issues where you had to draw the line on what's danger and what's safe. So the only element that would work was, you know what I'm saying? And now he's like, oh, hurt. And I'm like, yeah, hurt. You know, when we do a fire pit, you can't, I could just say, that's hot, don't do anything with that. The other one, I'll say that all day until he burn himself. You know what I mean? Like, how do you teach him? You know what I mean? So you still have to figure out the sweet spot for each child.
You do.
So what did you do?
I pop.
Yeah. Pop.
But it don't phase him.
It don't.
No, none of mine either.
It doesn't phase him. He'll go right back to the same thing. It's like repetitive.
The only thing that gets me when they get vocal, like my oldest, he'll come back after he got his really good pop, and he'll just be stunned. And I'm glad for that now, because what he get confused on, he will come back later, and he'll just be, why did you pop the Keanu? And I said, well, I popped the Keanu because Keanu did this. You know what I mean? And he's still like, I can't believe you did it. But I'm like, no. Right. But now does Keanu know the difference? Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So speech development is so important. But when you don't have a child that is at the level of speaking either American Sign Language, something, I don't recommend popping the child because they do not understand what the pop is for. You can't physically pop a child that doesn't understand what's happening. And that's where I went wrong in the beginning.
Me too. Because
I was like, okay, you have to know, because my mom said you know, my aunt said you know. Right. You know, everyone says that this kid knows, but that's not true. After that first butt cutting, and I looked at the child, and I realized the child didn't understand what this was for. I felt awful. That's why they say it'll hurt you more than it'll hurt me more than it hurt you, because now you realize, okay, I'm wrong. I shouldn't have popped you because you don't even get it. And that's the biggest part of those kind of lessons, is you have to wait for the understanding to come into the child, or else you're disciplining what. Right. You know what I mean? What are you disciplining?
It takes a lot of patience.
It does. It takes a lot.
What helps me with my daughter is she's just like me, like to the T. So I know if her and her brother get in a fight. I know when me and my brother used to get in a fight, when my mom got involved, it was always my brother's side of the story. I wasn't hurt. So now I try to take that and let her speak her piece and let him speak his piece. That way she can never feel like she's not heard, because that's what I went through. So I'm going to try to do what my mom didn't do, or what, my parents didn't do, and try to twist it to where, what would I have wanted my mom to do in that situation? And then that's how I proceed. And usually 9 times out of 10 it works.
I had to learn that through watching my son, my oldest. I learned that I was mischievous because everyone did things around me. So when I saw someone do something, I wanted to do it. You know what I mean? I would create my own version of it. For instance, my mom knows the story very well. When I was 4, I electrocuted myself in our old apartment because I saw a movie where a guy used a bobby pin to unlock a door. Right. So my brain told me...
Intrusive thoughts.
Yes, my brain told me, let's go do that. I electrocuted, blew out the apartment row, a complex of, no one had power. So when I started noticing my son is cueing off of me, like, so whatever he sees me do is directly related to his interests. I was like, okay, so I know what not to do. We do not watch movies with that inquisitive nature.
Exactly.
We do not. Like, we cover the outlets, and I pay the outlet no attention. If I cook with the knives go all the way in the back. Because they are little thinkers of what they see us do. They want to do what they saw. Like, and they don't know how to articulate that at the time. They just know that's on their brain, and they want to go do that. And you sitting there looking like, well, what made this child do that? You didn't realize you was cutting things with the knife, right? It looked fun.
And see, like growing up, I always kept knives under my bed, in my room. Like, I don't know what it was. I never told my daughter that story. Cleaned her room one day, and she had a knife under her bed, and I'm like, well, Nana, why do you have that? And she's like, I don't know, I just wanted it. So now I just have to make sure there's nothing laying around, just her eyes don't see it, so she say, I want it. She doesn't want anything to do with it, she just wants to have it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's my kids. I was scared to own a firearm for years, and a big part of, during my undergrad years, spent in security. And I was scared, once I had the kids, I was scared to own a firearm. Because it was like, okay, once they see me manipulate it just
one time,
you know what I mean? That just gets their interest immediately. So, yeah, I found myself, like, on a danger level, whatever I don't pay attention to, they don't. But if I do, like if I'm putting DVDs in something, man, you come back 5 minutes later, it's 14 DVDs. It's trying to be in that same spot. And I'm like, why did you do that? Like, I was trying to work it out like you did. And in their mind, they feel really right about it. If I make the bed, I'll come into their room. And it is completely flipped the other way. I change one room around. I walk in Keanu's room. And he's got his TV sitting in the middle of the bed. I'm like, what are you doing? I don't want to buy another TV. Move the TV to some new area. Oh, God. But then he's still, at the same time, my kids are really, like my oldest, you can't change his footprint. That is big. Wow. You have that experience?
Yes, I have. So I wanted to do my daughter's room over. And so my husband was like, you need to talk to her first because she might not like it. So when she got home, I said, Nana, how would you like it if you came home and you had this and this? And she said, I would have hated it. And she was so serious because anytime I would go and clean her room up or organize it, like she feels like I'm invading her space, and she does not like that.
Yes.
Tony is the same way. He got to have his teddy bears, the little squishy teddy bears, and if they're not on the shelf or if it's in one place, he will wake you up in the middle of the night. That's so you better get ready.
Like we moved. I moved from buying one house into another house, but I knew, just instinctively, I just knew. I was like, as soon as I buy this house, when I looked at the floor plan, we only had 3 bedrooms in the old house, 2 baths. When I bought the new house, it had 4 bedrooms, 2 baths. Right. I picked a room that was on the opposite end of the house. Footprint was almost the same. Picked the room that was originally his room. Set it completely back up before he could even get to the new house. So when he came in, he was just kind of like, I hate this place. He was walking around. He was going, yay. That's his way of saying, I'm not happy. He was doing, yay, yay. But when he bust open his room door, it was all the same layout. So he was like, great job, Mama. Great job. I was like, yeah, thank you. And that was his only happy place for like 6 months. Like he would be like, if he would be any other spot, he would go right back to his room because he's like, nah, this is how it's supposed to be. So yeah, my kids are, one of them is like that. One of them is definitely like that. But I did have a message from one of the girls that was a part of a group that I'm a part of. Okay. And I want to read it to you guys. Go ahead, sure. Hold on one second. I don't know what I did with my phone. And the girls was, it was kind of heart touching because when you first get that diagnosis, that's probably one of the most hardest times.
Yeah, it is.
And one of the ladies, she was saying, she said, I think it's Velvet. She said, being an autism mom is awful. It's awful. It is depressing. It is lonely. It is traumatic. It is ghetto. And I wish I never had to deal with life. With this life. She said, with all that being said, I love my kids. They're not just their diagnosis, but I'm not happy to, not express myself just because people don't want to express themselves. My therapist said that to limit my feelings is just because other people limit theirs. And I told her, I said, I appreciate your comment, and I wanted to know, could I share it with you guys today? Because that is, I've read that in multiple different ways with multiple different women who are trying to understand the diagnosis and learn to live with it. Because I went through a phase where I thought if I just drilled ABA therapy, occupational, let's do this, sign language, this, that, third, that I could just fix this. And now my child won't have autism. Right. My child will be normal. But what is normal?
Right. What is it?
What is normal? It is more important to love yourself and accept where you are in life and that it does look different than what you had planned. Right. The craziest person or what they say, you want to make God laugh, show him your plans. It's
Yeah.
okay. We all did that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But it's important to be flexible. It is so much beauty here in this journey.
Yeah.
Don't let the diagnosis take you down. Let it bring you and uplift you. Let it take you to the next level.
Yeah.
Because you got little baby Einstein. Everybody with the normal kids, their kids ain't as fabulous as your kid. Like, promise you that. Your kid is a one of a kind, for sure.
Yeah.
People gonna always remember your kid. Don't you worry.
Always. Yeah.
Like, I go anywhere and my youngest has less friends than the oldest one, and he speaks less.
Right.
And everywhere Keanu goes, everybody's like, "Hey, Keanu." Keanu's like, "Kitty, kitty." Everybody's trying to speak to him. He don't care because he's in his bubble. Like, there is nothing wrong with our children. There's nothing wrong with your children. It is something wrong with the way the world sees
Yes, that's the thing.
is the issue.
Yeah.
And if we can advocate like I do, and we all are doing today, is to show you that you're not alone in this journey.
Yeah.
We all are going through it, whether we connect with one another and get a part of the groups and talk in those groups.
Yeah.
Please get in the group.
Yeah. I'm learning more and more every day.
swear.
Get in a group.
There's a lot I didn't know. and
Black
still don't
autism
know.
moms. There are so many on Facebook.
Yeah.
Join a group. Talk to different people. You know, I done told you we need a wine day.
Yes.
You know, but I know how hard it is
It's
to
hard.
get someone
Yeah.
to watch so that we could go
Exactly.
and have, you know what I mean?
Or
Like,
if you bring them, like my daughter would be sitting there, how much longer? I'm ready to go. And then that's
As
making
you
you
see.
feel like you're
Right.
yeah,
rushed.
you
and
gotta
it's
go.
like,
Yeah.
let me go ahead and do what she wants before
But-
she gets
The good part about having mates is, hey, they need to step up and they need to allow you to get that time. Like, it's so important. I didn't look this good 5-6 years ago. You know what I mean? I looked like I hadn't seen a bra in 3 weeks. Like, I didn't know where my hair was. Like, I didn't know anything about life.
draining.
It's so, like, you become absorbed with the kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you have got to get some separation. If my best advice, just get a little you time. I don't care if it's 15 minutes.
That's right.
Get
That's
that
right.
15 minutes every day, a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and do the little victory thing
Yeah.
where you celebrate these little successes. Make your bed. Start small. Make the bed. Made a pot of coffee.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, victory for me.
Yeah.
You know, no phone calls today.
No
Hey,
phone
high five. You know what I'm saying? Like, high five.
Right. Right.
And just be happy. Find ways, little ways. That's what my therapist has been teaching me. Find little ways to find those victories and
Right.
find happiness in those victories.
Right.
And even when it comes to your kid, my kid may not make all A's.
Right.
I cannot scale his success by other people's scales.
Right.
No.
Right.
And you shouldn't do it either.
No.
It's too much wonderfulness in these kids. Their personalities are things I could not live without. Like, honestly.
When they initially thought that my daughter had ADHD and they were talking about medicines, I shut down because I said that her personality is too fantastic to dull that. And when my brother was on the medicine, it changed his whole personality. And I don't want to see that. She's very creative. She can draw. She can paint. You know, she's very smart. She can hack. You know, she can do all this stuff. And I felt like if I put her on medicine, that would change who she is.
I will tell you, my boys are on medicine. This was a big discussion in my family.
Oh, yeah.
This was big. This carried on for weeks, and my mom was very upset with me. She did not want them on medication. And I had a cousin who had medication young, and I remember he was like a zombie.
Yes,
you know
my
what I
mother as
mean?
well.
And I was like super scared of that. And I talked to our pediatrician really hard. And the school really, they can't legally push medication on you,
Right.
but they can really push.
Yeah, they really try.
They can really send your child home enough. They
Yeah,
can
they-
make enough comments.
Yeah.
They can write you long pages.
Oh, yeah.
That is the push for medication, and that has to change.
Yeah.
That really has to change. But the school pushed very hard within their legal bounds to get there, and enough stress on it, and enough sitting home. I mean, repetitively sending this child home. And I'm like, Jesus, I have to try. Because now we're pushing up on an area where someone could say I'm medically neglecting the child. So it can get quite fierce with the school and you and not wanting to medicate
my
your
kids'
child.
school, they didn't threaten me in a sense, but they were basically saying that if you don't put your daughter on medication and she comes back up here, we're going to have to expel her, or we're going to have to suspend her because her behavior. And I'm like, can we do anything else? Can we try anything else first? And they're like, nope, in order for you to do such and such, you got to get the medication, and then we can do the IEP, and then we can proceed, you know, on. And I'm just like,
listen, we finally did it. My boy's on Adderall. And I'm the administrator, and I don't allow anyone else to give it to them but me.
Okay.
So I do not allow it go to the school.
Okay, that's good.
My doctor and me are very tight. Dr. Atkinson, what's up, girl? But our doctor is very tight. And so I was like, hey, look, doc, I want it to be, I don't want zombies. I want them to keep being their natural self.
That's right.
You know, so my number one comment for most people like, oh, I wouldn't put my kid on that. They are on Adderall, this is that. I'm like, listen, until you've seen what the medicine can do,
Right.
you don't know what you're missing.
Yeah. Right.
So the first day that Keanu was on his 15, he was on 10, they was on 15, and we finally got to 20. The right dosage. Yeah. We played with it up and down, and she gave me the amounts. And she was like, listen, add 5, take 5. Figure out which one works for you. And I kept a journal. Also, an avid journal about every detailed behavior all day long while he's medicated.
Right.
And one of the first things I had fell in love with was something we used to do as a playtime when he was like 3 and 4. I would make tests, like math tests or reading tests, and they would have to go off on their own at 2 and 3 and figure out the answer and put it in. Kenny came back with the whole test, like 10 questions, and he created the test, answered the answers, checked it off, made a smiley face with his name and everything. I was like,
so he was able to focus more.
Focus.
That's
his focus, his younger brother focus is superb on the medicine. So when they come to me and Jeremiah be like, I hate my medicine, I don't want it. But then later he'll come back and say, well, Mom, what's my superpower? And I'll be like, that medicine. That medicine, because I can tell you clean your room 15 times and we never get anywhere. But his medicine, that room clean, he doesn't look like he done dusted. Okay? I'm like,
it's
you know,
different
it's
types
a
of
difference,
medicines.
but you gotta like. I didn't want my kids having different ones. Like taking this and taking that to taking. I didn't want that. So I was like, Adderall, then it's gonna be Adderall. And a lot of people like, don't do that, Mom. You gotta be willing to try different things. I'm like, no. I just feel very confident in what I've seen this can do. And I'm okay with that. I'm not willing to try these other things. But for us in our family, Adderall has been superb. And then when I say that, I mean like my child is still my child. If he is zooming, he has ADHD. So if he's zooming left and right now, he is still zooming left and right. You know what I mean?
So
like
it change who he was.
No, like the things that tick him off still tick him off. Like just because he got his school calling me like, oh, Keanu's having such a horrible day. Like, has he had his medicine? And I'm like, yes, he has. Like, yeah, he has. Like it hasn't changed his necessary behavior, but his willing to be focused. His willingness to focus, his willingness to start and to do something, you know, especially when it comes down to work and reading passages, it has made his focus more sharp. But as far as his attitude, it's still Keanu. You know what I mean?
Well, that's good to hear.
That's important. I hope it inspires you guys.
Yes, absolutely.
When that comes, and the other thing is, your kid's 10. Keanu didn't get medication till he was 10. That's another thing. Wait till their brains are a little bit more developed. You know what I mean? Not so young. I would not recommend under 10-year-old child on medication like Adderall. It's a real drug.
She started her cycle at a very early age, so she PMSing as well. So we have to try to, you know, what's setting you off. You know, is it this? Is it this? Is it this? You know, and then try to work around that. Because when we don't know, it's just I know that she's waking up and she doesn't want to talk to anybody, and she's so I just leave her alone until she's ready to
try it.
Right.
My best advice is to try it. Ladies, I know we grew up in the 80s. I know we grew up with the time where it's like, no. Because they said I needed to be on something. My mom refused it. They said she needed to get a diagnosis. She refused it. But it has suffered me on a social aspect when it comes to work and stuff. You know, not understanding not the fact that I'm an excellent worker. But I've found that entrepreneurship is the way to go for me because some of these social cues I don't pick up on. I don't think we should fraternize at work with people.
Right.
And I'm thinking that's what they taught us. So why, it's a no-brainer. But everybody else is like, well, we want to go to the pool hall tonight. Go with us. And I'm like, I don't know, that's weird. We all got families. Ain't you married? You know what I mean? Like, and my mind just can't proceed past what I know.
Right.
And so when I watch them on their medicine, they're no less themselves. They just, whatever that thought is, they're going to go to completion. That's the point.
Okay.
So if it's homework, they're going to get it done.
Yes.
And then they're going to get busy doing other things. And if it's mom said set the table, guess what? You didn't have to say it 4 or 5 times. They went over there naturally and said it. Or if you feel like the behavior is a little too high, you know what I mean? It's not really working the way you want it to. You could dial it back. You know what I mean? So that, try it out first and just see if it don't help her.
Yes.
I'm definitely gonna try it. My grandma used to joke that I slid under the radar, and so I made straight A's. And so my grandma would say, "Well, you did just enough to where we didn't have to take you and get you evaluated."
Yeah.
And definitely did.
Looking at some of my behaviors back then, I'm like, how did y'all not take me to get evaluated? Because I know certain stuff that I used to do that,
I was no child left behind groom. Okay?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I got my degrees, my licenses. I'm very smart, very educated. I have persistence, unlike other people. I have the ability to push hard when everybody else might quit. Like that part. But minus that, hi, cutie.
So, I had one more question. Before we end this. There was a young lady who said, as they get older, what steps should parents take to continue to advocate for their young adults?
I think, you want to go first or you want me to?
You. I'm trying to think.
I think what's going to be super important is to advocate for not just understanding and sensitivity around them and what they're doing. Advocate for their ability to work where they want to. Don't push the child to work in environments that they don't like. Pick things that are their interests.
Right.
You know what I mean? As long as they're going to where their interests, that's going to be great. But it's going to be super important to advocate that they can work. Advocate that if they want to live on their own, they want to learn to drive, help them get to a place that they can.
Right.
It does not have to be an ending. It can be a beginning. And just advocate that there's more to them than just their autism.
Absolutely.
Like push harder. Push them, push yourself, go and let them grow. Don't still believe that just because they have autism, they're never going to lead the next. Because that's the grimmest part of the diagnosis. Is that, oh my God, I'm going to have this child the rest of my life. Maybe not. But be willing to help them elevate to the levels that's necessary.
Right.
Not necessarily, you want to make sure they're not dependent.
Right.
Make sure they're dependent on themselves.
Right.
Above all things.
Right.
And just don't stop until that is at least established, where you got them a home setting and everything, even if it's in your backyard.
Right. That's right.
If it's in your
Ladies,
backyard.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Y'all looking to come back for a part 2?
Of course.
Yeah.
Because you know this can go on for hours.
Yeah,
we
can
hours
and hours. So I really appreciate y'all for taking the time out to come on the show. We're going to talk more about autism. If you have any questions, please comment it in below on our YouTube channel, guys. Follow us on Let's Talk About It 803 YouTube. Okay? Ladies, thank you.
Thank you for having us. This was fun.
Thank you.